was just no stopping AOL. They were owning the internet. They were the spine of the internet. And this story is quite familiar, hopefully to everyone in this room. There were many reasons for its stunning decline. But the number one reason for the stunning decline is they didn't switch to broadband. They were this 56K dial-up service that was really hard moving that. You know, it's a giant ship going across the ocean. Just to turn it a few degrees takes tremendous energy and tremendous risk that goes along with it. And we talked a lot about this in Netflix, and we were well aware, and this would come up in company meetings, this would come up in team meetings, executive meetings, and so forth. We didn't want to end up like them. So we would talk about, does anyone know the name of when a circus acrobat rides on two horses at the same time? Roman riding. And we would use that term, you'd see that in all kinds of presentations around Netflix. Roman riding is, you have this business that's really successful, and you're riding that. But if you only ride that, well, that's a problem, because you can go the way of AOL. Your business model suddenly, slowly becomes extinct. But to ride on a new thing, my God, that's difficult, because you're growing the business on here, but then you're ignoring this business that really is churning out all that cash and so forth. So you're riding at two things at once, and that's risky, and that's not easy. And, you know, I threw in the one with the burning fire when I was looking up on Google Images. I'll make it even more exciting in our tale. So here it is, Roman riding through a flaming circle. So let's get to the ballpark. So here it was. We wanted to lean forward, and at Netflix, if there's one thing we have is a bias to action. We love to roll the dice, we love to lean forward, we know what we're up against, and we're not going to lean back, so we're going to try stuff. And what we figured is, we got to push harder on streaming. We have to separate out the two services. We have to create this magnificent spin-off product called Quickster. This is going to be awesome, this is the way to go, this is how we're going to avoid the fate of AOL. So we tried to split out the services so we could focus on streaming, so we can have DVDs, and it's two separate things, and it got ugly really fast, and this is what bias to action can sometimes get you, and you need to have very thick skin. So boom! And just to get the scale right, that's a $300 stock price that we rose up from. When I started the company, it was $30, it went down to $17 at times, it was up and down, and then we were down to $55, and Netflix is screwed, and it's over. But that's not how we felt internally, because Wall Street reacts way too. In the short term, there is no rationality to the stock market, and they went way too high, way too low, etc. But we hung in there because we knew what we were doing. In the short term, we didn't. We made a mistake. We misstepped in 2011. But in the bigger picture, the ideas we had were right. It's just the execution wasn't exactly there, but we had the strategy in place and the focus. And so we took the plummet, and it's up and down, and like I said, these swings are bigger than you might think. It was 40–50% of the stock over just a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But now, someone please pass me the oxygen, because the altitude is getting really high and the air is getting thin. We're up to $450. So we did. The Roman riding paid off. We got a little, burned through that hoop of fire, but we did make it through, and now we're really figured out, DVD is a nice business, but we are very focused on streaming and streaming movies and TV shows. So, the biggest opportunity for Netflix. Well, if you look at other companies and where they're growing, I have the statistic up there of YouTube. Most of YouTube streaming is not in the US. The vast majority is outside the US. So now there's a huge global opportunity, but with that, and if you look at a whole bunch of different companies, comes a lot of risk. Because not all consumers are created equally, not all competitive landscapes are the same, there's all kinds of challenges around bandwidth in different countries, so very different. Different companies with different countries with different payment methods, different countries where consumers aren't used to a subscription model. There are a lot of challenges going globally, but things are going well on that front. So if you look at this chart, this only takes it through the end of last year. It doesn't look at the fantastic first quarter we had in 2014. So that number now it's up to, we released 44 million. But the dark black is the US, but you can see the growing gray, and that's international, and that's our big opportunity right now. And boy, we're learning a tremendous amount. And yes, we are tripping sometimes. Occasionally we're falling on our faces, but we get right back up there like we did in that Roman riding picture, which is exactly the biggest example we have of a risk that we took. So it's such a large market. There's a lot to be done. Think about how much entertainment people are watching in a day. We all know the statistics like the American American TV is on 5 hours a day, 6 hours, etc. There's all the consumption on the internet now. So there's a big opportunity. That's a giant pie, whether it's subscription models or advertising models and so forth. So Netflix, we really look at our particular segment. So there's a couple of ways you can look at a company. You can look at it in the Jeff Bezos Amazon way, which is complete world domination in every single market you can imagine. I'm going to get huge in shoes. I'm going to get huge in diapers, let alone books and music. I'm going to do video streaming, just like Netflix, and have a subscription thing. And we're going to do kind of a pay-per-view model as well. We're going to go for everything. That's one way to look at it. And Jeff Bezos is an amazingly bright individual. And I'm going to buy a newspaper on the side as a hobby. And at Netflix, though, we have a very different approach at this, which is we want to be great at this. We want to be great at what we do. We think about it as like, there's all kinds of different content. And, whenever I interview people, when I talk to friends, they go like, why don't you get into video games? Why don't you do live events? Why don't you do, and there's all kinds of, why don't you do this and that and the other thing. But there's such a big opportunity in what we do, endeavor to accomplish and do it well. So basically, in the space we're in, we want to get great, and there's huge opportunity there. We want to keep on growing that piece of it. So that's what we're focused on. Maybe in many years to come, we'll switch to something else and expand out the business, but we're not even close to that. We're having rapid growth in what we do, and that includes our business model, which is, here's another thing I get all the time, which in the streaming world, it's not like the DVD world. We have many great titles. There's always something great to watch on Netflix, but we don't have even close to everything. We have a well-curated catalog of a lot of great content across all kinds of genres. So you could think about, why don't we do the model, why don't we do something like an iTunes and have just the latest movie that's out, in the, that just got released on video? Why don't we let people pay $4.99 for that particular title if it's not within license for us to get it on our all-you-can-eat subscription model? Or why don't we go into advertising, because YouTube, that would be great with all our personalization technology, figuring out a perfect ad to put in front of a user. That's not a huge hop away from putting the great movie or TV show in front of a user. But once again, it's that monomaniacal focus. It's getting great at this particular thing, and there's a lot of growth opportunity within what we do to keep on moving on this, what I call the virtuous cycle of Netflix, which is basically the more subscribers we get, the greater our revenue is, the more we can plow back into content, the more we can plow into making a great product, and the better the experience is, so even more users come in, so it keeps on going round and round. The better the product is, the better the content is, the more users you get, the more we can improve it. And that's been a fuel. That's what's led to such explosive growth that I showed you in the previous charts. So now let's get into my area of expertise specifically, which is, my thing is, I run the product experience in Netflix for non-members and members across both the user interfaces and the algorithms to put great content in front of people. And this is, I'm super excited to put up this image. I'm proud of it because my team and I, we built this as like richer imagery, easier way to find content on a TV screen. So this was launched recently, and all those titles in front of you are driven by our algorithms. So here's a big part of product that we really paid a pioneer tax on. And now it seems obvious to everyone, right now in 2014, but this was not obvious in 2009, which was streaming across such a ubiquity of devices, streaming on every device you could think of. And it wasn't easy getting across all these devices. This was a lot of engineering work. This was a big investment to get on as many devices as we can, but this is an important part of it. So we're done with that. We're on, set-top boxes and mobile phones and tablets, et cetera, et cetera. The decade ahead, now that we have device ubiquity, is moving in that, like I said, it's that strange paradox. When you're standing on the outside, it seems like it took forever to get video on demand, great and right. But when you're within the world, it seems to be moving incredibly fast in a very competitive environment. So now it's really about making the experience great, making it as seamless as possible, making it fast, making it the highest quality. So strange things happen that you wouldn't expect. Like, for example, ultra-high definition video will be on Netflix before it's on any cable station, before it's on your regular TV. Used to be like, watching video over the internet. It looks awful. We were used to rebuffering and low resolution and so forth. Soon it'll be the highest resolution you can get is through internet TV. Things are moving around. So important part of what we do in our product experience and how to make things better for the consumer is taking the politics out of the process, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. So this is how a lot of companies run. No, they don't have a crazy bald Russian guy named Nikita Khrushchev running their companies or anyone, but sometimes they have guys like it. So I've been around friends who work for other companies who have guys standing up on the bully pulpit and talking about this is what you need to do and very micromanaged from the top down. That's not how we do things at Netflix. So basically, another way things get done is it's not always from the top down, but it's the person who doesn't shut up. The person who keeps on at the meeting and goes up to everyone in the back rooms, in the hallways, in small gatherings, and they push and push and push, and eventually that feature gets out there in the product because this person pushed hard enough. And that's not the way we do things either, because that's not the most productive way, and you don't get to the best experience for the consumer. What we do is we follow this guy. Anyone know who that is? Who's that?
Drake?
Come on, it's Stanford University. Who's that? That's Francis Bacon. Scientific method. That's how we do things. We make decisions in a very rational way, because with internet technology, with a relationship with your users that's direct and understanding and seeing their behavior, we're able to do that. So in Netflix, we do large-scale testing, and what that means is that user interface I showed you before that I was proud of, with those big, rich images and so forth, that thing, we just didn't say, boy, it would be awesome if we had giant pictures of the content. Boy, it would be awesome if we put evidence and text over here and we put this over here. Nothing like that. What we did is, someone on my team and a bunch of designers and engineers drove something like this, came up with a product that we thought would work, but we only launched it to 50, 100,000 people, randomly chosen, and then randomly chosen, we chose 50 or 100,000 to be in a control. And then, if you're getting those experiences, you have no idea that you're in a test cell. You think this is the way I get Netflix, because we only use new members in our testing, so this is what you start up the service with, this is what you're getting. And then we don't ask them what works. We don't make our decisions in focus groups. We use a lot of focus groups. We use a lot of usability, but that's just supportive. The real decisions are made when we watch these people's behavior. Because we agreed on metrics beforehand, a priority, we say, this is what we're going to judge it against. If this succeeds, it's the kind of engagement driving this metric. And then this basically democratizes ideation. And the reason it does is because it doesn't have to be the CEO, call him Nikita. It doesn't have to be the loudest, most pestering, most persistent person. It just has to be someone with a really good idea that you try and you see if their idea works. And it doesn't matter if it's the most junior individual contributor or the most senior person at the company. And this applies to both algorithms, the logic underneath the system to put the right content in front of the right people at the right time, and also the user interfaces and designs and layout and so forth. It was a very simple world. I had channel 2, channel 4, channel 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 done. So you didn't need any sophisticated, the user interface was great. Change the channel, change it again, I see what's on, I have a TV guide in front of me, and I'm done. But then the industry got lazy for a long time. And the world has looked like this for a long time, and now we're moving past this. The world looked like, it went from a lot of you MBA students out there, you grew up in a world with this stuff, which is 50, 100, 300 different channel choices that it slowly scrolls by in an electronic programming guide. That is bad user interface. That is not the future of TV. That is a drag on TV. Sure, it gave you amazing choice, all these choices that I can watch, really niche kind of TV, but not a good way to find anything, kind of painful in a way. So we can't do that anymore, because we went from 300 channels to thousands and thousands of individual titles that you just click and play. And that's now, we have to do something about that. We have to get better. Imagine if you had the whole Netflix catalog in that UI, and just every time you got there, it slowly scrolled by, and you would have to borrow a gun and shoot yourself in the head, because that would be miserable. So instead, what we do is we use personalization to drive what gets in front of people, because content selection is important. And it doesn't matter, I'm talking about right now, talking about movies and TV shows. Obviously, it doesn't matter if that's news stories, or books, or music, We have incredible choice. Choice has exploded before us. That's what we're inheriting. It's a great world, but it's also a challenging world to navigate your way through. So this is just a screenshot I took this morning when I was pulling together the slides of my own Netflix homepage. And I got my many rows, which you guys, if you're Netflix users, are familiar with. And I got my inspiring movies, my critically acclaimed movies. But it's not like everyone who even gets the 4% of users or 2% of users who happen to get an inspiring movies row, and the 7% of users, I'm making those numbers up, that got a critically acclaimed movies row, they didn't even get exactly those titles. Because maybe we have 210 critically acclaimed movies, another number I'm making up, and out of those, we sort those with another algorithm. And the algorithm decides, out of those 210 titles we have in critically acclaimed movies, what are we going to put in front of this user at this time? And we're going to look at their behavior, we're going to look at what they watched, how recently they watched it, how much they watched it, did they abandon it, did they watch, what was the velocity if it's a TV show going from episode to episode, and understanding all that minutia and understanding in very sophisticated machine learned algorithms about what kinds of factors really matter and which ones, it's separating the wheat from the chaff, and which ones, don't weight that much, even if it might be counterintuitive, and then it decides to put this content in front of me so I don't have to take a machete through thousands of titles and figure out what I want to do and waste all my time and then get sick of it and then go play a video game instead. No, I'll go to Netflix and I'll find something bubbling up to the top that looks interesting to me and I'll play it. Do I want users to be like, wow, that's awesome, their personalization algorithms are the reason I subscribe to Netflix. That's why I'm going to pay them $8 a month. Absolutely not. I don't even want them to think about it. In fact, one of my favorite stories is we had, occasionally I'll give broader presentations to either the whole company or a couple hundred people and so forth. And we had someone in a totally different part, in a partner part of the company, and she is Korean American. She's born in Korea. And she's on the partner side. She talks to folks like Samsung and so forth. And she was like, she asked me, and then I go, any questions out there? And she was asking me a content question about our licensing. And she goes, why don't we license more Korean soap operas? And I said, well, why? We have a nice, small collection of Korean soap operas in the U.S. catalog. And I go, why do you ask? And she goes, well, they're so popular because every time I go to Netflix, boom, they're right on top. They're the things I always see on top. So those are the things we should be getting more. Isn't that? So it's fascinating. She's a bright woman that everyone thinks like, yeah, these must be the great things that everyone loves to watch. And that's fine. And I'm glad she thought that, and I enjoyed that moment for many reasons. So right now we go for